Welcome to another episode of Beyond Four Walls, the podcast that delves into the stories and journeys of remarkable property professionals. I'm your host, Jodie Fraser, and today I have a truly amazing guest, Beth Lancaster. Beth's story is a testament to resilience, adaptability, and the power of passion in shaping your career and life. Starting her journey as a dental nurse at the age of 16, Beth embarked on an incredible journey that led her to the bustling cityscape of the UAE in 1998. She seamlessly transitioned into the world of property management, where she managed commercial units in Dubai, which she will tell us all about later. Returning to London in 2003, Beth joined County Estate Management, guiding it through a transformative journey that eventually led to its rebranding as First Port. Her dedication and leadership were recognised in 2019 when she was honoured as the Property Manager of the Year in the News on the Block Top 50 Awards. And today, Beth thrives as an associate director at First Port, leading a team of 7 property managers with a deep commitment to professional and property legislation and continuous professional development. Beyond her professional achievements, Beth is a devoted mother and a carer for her disabled brother. Her family carries the rare degenerative condition of DRPLA, which she will also tell us about, and is a cause which is deeply committed to raising awareness about. Additionally, Beth has faced her own challenges living with fibromyalgia for 20 years and navigating the complexities of menopause, all while excelling in her career and family life. So, Beth, thank you so much. Sorry, I stumbled over my words a little bit there.
That's fine. Wow, that was some intro. I'm looking around to see who you're introducing, and then I'm realizing it's me.
Well, you sound like you've had an amazing career, and I'm very excited to hear about Dubai because it's definitely on my bucket list to work there if at all possible. But tell us about, started as a dental nurse and then Dubai. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite the change. Well, look, I didn't do that well at school. I mean, I did okay in my exams and things, but I was never really a confident person back then, which would surprise a lot of people to hear now. But I didn't become confident in my own person and my authentic person and self until I left school. And then I felt I wasn't confined by exams and that kind of pressure. So yep, I just looked for a job, and my mum ringed one in the paper and said, go for this. And I thought, yeah, okay, so I'll do that. And it was a dental nurse job. I went and I got it, and it was a really good job and I really loved it, but there's no money in it. The future, I didn't see myself being a hygienist, and was definitely not going to study to become a dentist. So I started having to think, and my dad has always worked overseas. Or for the most part of my life anyway. And I was even there with him when he first started his journey. I went to Nigeria, and that was where my first school was, at the age of 4.5. So he was in Dubai at this time, and he kept saying to me over the years, oh, why don't you come out? There's loads of opportunities for someone like you. And I was always I really loved my country, and I really didn't feel confident enough to go. And then it got to the point when I was a dental nurse that I thought, you know what am I hanging around for? I had just bought a house, so I did have that as a consideration, and I just thought I'm just going to take the opportunity. So I just discussed it with my family here, my mum at the time, and I thought if she's okay for me to go and bung some stuff in her loft, then off I'll go. And so I rang my dad and I said, look, I'm going to come. I'm going to actually come and make a go of this. And I went over there. It was in 1997. And I went over there with a plan to go for 3 months, see how it worked out. If it didn't work out, I'd come back. I could get a job as a dental nurse again. And I ended up staying there for 5.5 years. So, and I started off just being one of those girls on the exhibition stands. I just did some temp work, and from there, one of the guys on the stand said to me, "Oh, we've got a job going. Do you want to go for it?" So I said, "Okay." It was an assistant to an executive director or something. I didn't know how to use a computer. I'm a very much fake it till you make it person, and luckily I can fly by the seat of my pants on these things. But I went for the job, I got it. I think it was more because I was British and a woman. At that point, it was over 25 years ago or whatever. So It was very different at that time, but yeah, I got the job and I did work really hard, and he gave me more responsibility. And in the end, he said, "Look, do you want to manage the commercial units of this new building that we're taking on?" Yeah, okay, great, all right, I'll do it. And then I thought, you know what, I can probably do better than this. Let's have a look at property management jobs. So I started looking in the newspapers then, as it was, for property management jobs, and I saw one and I thought, I'll go for that. And I went for it, and I ended up managing one of the skyscrapers on Shakeside Road, which was at the time was the main road and still is. So I managed that building. And in terms of how it relates to here now, the build to rent market, I would say it's very similar to, because you're managing the common parts and you're managing the flats as well, and you're also letting them. So it was inside the flats, outside the flats, the pool, the gym, the commercial units, the car park, the lifts, the fire safety, although fire safety was a little bit not so great at that time, especially in the UAE. I don't know quite how it is now. I'm sure it's a lot better. And we did have a massive fire in that building as well that blew all the windows out that we had to deal with. And yeah, that gave me some great experience there. So actually, it was 2001 and the September the 11th, and I was sitting in an office next door to my boss, who was having a meeting next door where he was selling the building. And the sale went through while I was in the office next door finding out what was going on with 9/11. So the sale was done. I was therefore redundant, and I had to look for another job. And I wasn't ready to come back to the UK at that stage. I still wanted to be out there, and I applied for a job with a Bergerman Centre, which was at the time a shopping mall, but they were building a commercial element to it and residential element to it. And so the job I got there was I was a consultant to the owner on the residential side and the commercial side, because I had experience of that, and that's what they needed. And so I went in there and I ended up doing some commercial letting as well. And then they wanted me to go on to manage a shopping mall. But at that stage, I was really ready to come home then. I wanted to come home. I had a lot of experience, and I thought, okay, I've got enough experience to come back, come into this into London and try and make my way there. So I handed my notice in. They were gutted. They tried to get me to stay. I had to make up loads of lies about why I was going. They made me feel so guilty. Yeah, I told them I was getting engaged, actually. I had to show a picture of someone that I was getting engaged to, because they were just so because there was no HR PC world out there. So but anyway, so I came back. I slept on my brother's sofa, or rather he slept on his sofa and I slept in his bed for 3 months while I looked for another job. And I found a job working for a very small residential block management company. I wasn't the first choice for the job. I was the second. So it didn't work out with the first person. So they came back for me, which was great. And I worked there for a couple of years. I came back in 2003, and then I thought, right, I'm going to move to a bigger company now. The guy that I worked for did a lot of slamming his hands on the desk, and there's only so much you can take of that before you think, you know what, I deserve better than this. But he, it was a great start, and I did fake it till I make it, because there was no leasehold legislation, obviously I knew nothing about in Dubai. So I came back and had to really learn on the job. But in smaller companies, of course, you're doing everything yourself. So you learn everything, and you have to get involved with everything. And at that time, we were doing evening meetings in person and that kind of thing. So it was a really sort of ground up training. And then I applied for a job with County Estate Management at the time, who are now, they evolved into First Port eventually. With all the acquisitions, and applied for a job there. Went to their office, and my boss was on holiday, and there was a massive pile of papers, and they just, get on with it. So that's what I did. And again, I just got stuck in. And I suppose that's a personality thing, really. And we always look for experience in this job, but actually I've been recruiting over the last few weeks for property managers. And out of the people that I've interviewed, the guy we took on has actually got no experience, but has a tenacity that I recognize in myself. Whereas the people that I've interviewed who have experience have turned up still getting dressed on the phone, laid back in their chair on their mobile phone. And these are the people who, on paper, they look like the ones you're going to hire. So I've learned a lot about recruitment also in the last couple of weeks, and thought, yeah, come on, let's get back to basics. Let's get that personality, that personality type who's going to want to get stuck in and who's resilient, because you know as well as I do, Jodie, how it can be in this industry, and how the residents can treat you not only badly, as I'm sure a lot of customer services people receive. You often see the notices in the supermarket, our staff need to be treated a certain way, or else, that it won't be tolerated. And why should it be with us? It really shouldn't. So you have to be a certain type of character to be empowered to say, no, hang on a minute. I'm not going to be treated that way, but I've got a nice way to tell you about how to do it. Yep. So that was me. So then I was working for County Estate, and I was flying. I thought, this is it. I'm going to be running the company in 10 years' time. I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. This is the job for me. And to be fair, I still do love it. However, sadly, I started to get a pain in my foot, which, cut a long story short, ended up pain all over my body. What is going on with me? And I was pretty much disabled. And walking with a stick within the period of sort of 6 months from the Christmas 2004. And then it was, everything's on hold, career's on hold. I just met the man that I'm now married to. Everything was on hold. We were moved in together, but we were thinking about having children. That was all put on hold. And I was diagnosed eventually with fibromyalgia, which is still a constant for me to this day. But I've learned how to live with it and deal with it. And it comes with its challenges, and I don't speak about it often. In fact, my team, if they listen to this podcast now, they'll probably be the first that they know about it, because I just try and get on with it. And I know my limitations, and I have a fantastic support system at home with my husband, who knows to say, you're doing too much. Or, oh, I've done too much again, have you? Right, let me. So that was that. I walked for a stick for about 2 years. I took a back seat at work. I went into a compliance role, which I hated because it was a desk job. It sent me into pretty much depression, to be honest, because I was just so bored. And I thought, do you know what? I've got to get back into this. So I got made redundant, which wasn't a surprise because I wasn't getting enough work, and I kept asking for work. And they said, okay, well, look, do you want to be a property manager again? It'll mean a pay cut. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to have to do. So down again rather than up and soaring as I was a couple of years prior. So I started as a property manager again. And I just got stuck in. And I remember walking around Sainsbury's one day with my husband and my stepdaughter. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to have to start getting mentally strong here and physically strong. So I just took my stick and I said to my husband, I don't think I want to use this anymore. I really need to try and get by and try and make myself stronger mentally and physically. And that's what I did. My physical and mental crutch was gone. I kept it in the garage for a few years because just in case, and because I never thought I'd be able to live without it. It was my third leg, and it stopped people bumping into me. So I got back out on site and I got back doing stuff, and I worked on my health and holistically. And I started back at grassroots managing properties again, instead of managing a team and working with a developer and that kind of thing that I'd done at County Estate. And I'd worked a lot with St George, the developer, and we'd had our own little team where I was bringing in more business. So that was that. So back to property management. And then through the years, then I thought, well, this is how I need to stay as a property manager. I didn't want to take any promotion. Even though I was hitting all the targets and the company was saying, come on, no, I just need to do what I'm doing to make sure that I'm okay, because I'm a big believer in, an analogy of the iceberg, and what's built underneath the iceberg is going to help what's top of that iceberg. And that's not only for you personally, but also professionally. And so you need to get your mental health right, your work-life balance right, everything holistically correct, and the rest will follow. But it's just sad that it held me back. I felt like I was on a board of snakes and ladders. And this is how I used to describe it to my husband and my family. You know, I'd get up on the ladders right to the top of the game, and then I hit a snake, and I'll come all the way back down again. And it felt like that when I was going to the gym and I was running. Eventually, I did triathlon for 1 year, and it was that kind of thing. I just kept hitting snakes and coming down and thinking, I've just got to do my best. And then I'd think, right, I've got to adapt my work-life balance again. And then eventually it got to the point where I thought, you know what, I probably can, you know, move on up now. And I was still with Firstport, and because I'd adopted a child in that time. And that was right. So basically,
I have so many questions to ask you all around this story. I really do.
Yeah. So basically, I'd got to the point where I thought, you know what, my health's on point. I'm getting there. I know what I'm doing with work. I find it easy, in terms of not easy on a day-to-day basis, because there's always something to do, but I was finding it an easier job to do because I'd had my portfolio a while and I was on top of it. And so we were looking at having a child, and over those couple of years it just didn't happen for me. There was no medical reason. It's just I don't know, I kind of think it was divine intervention. Yeah, because eventually we decided to go for adoption, and if I had got pregnant and if that had worked out for us, I wouldn't have the daughter I have now. You know, and she's my world. I have my stepdaughter and I love her to bits too. Well, I've known her since she was 11 months old, and she's a lovely woman. She's grown into a fine lady. I'm so proud of her also, and she looks to me as a mother figure, I'm proud to say. But my daughter, who we adopted her when she was just about coming up to 1 year old, and she had some issues that they'd told us about. And that was another issue with adoption. You always adopt a child who's going to have some background, because they're taken away from their birth family. And that's always going to be traumatic, however young they are.
Yeah.
So we pushed through on that, and that was the hardest thing we've ever done. I mean, the number of questions, the delving into your private life, you feel absolutely stripped naked, because they know how much you got in your bank. They know what you did for a living. They know why. One of the questions was, why did your mum and dad have sex? You know, yeah, and you had to answer that. It was all these intrusive questions.
Wow.
And it was all just to get an idea of who you are and how you would parent a child. And it was just tons and tons of questions. And it was just, why did they get married, and all that kind of thing, and just things about your background and your history and what you think about the different elements of life and the world and the universe. So that was a good year and a half process, and then she came into our world, and it's been a wonderful journey. But of course I still wasn't ready, because of that, to then still take that step up. I wanted to be a mother, and I was 42 by then, so I was, knocking on, and I needed to make sure that happened, and I got settled with her, because she was now the most important thing. Still loving my job, still need that in my life. Can't possibly just be about children and family. I have to have work, has to be a big part of my life too, because I'm on the go constantly. I constantly, my brain is ticking over, and I need heads to have stuff in my headspace.
Yeah.
So after that, a couple of years into that, so when she's about this was about 3 years ago, when she was about 7, I thought I'd done something at the gym, and I was on crutches, and I thought, and I was in one of my blocks, and I was on crutches on one leg, trying to put something up at a high place, a sticker in a high place that I'd got from Amazon and stuck up myself, because I'm good to my residents and saving them money. And I laughed, and I just thought to myself, what are you doing, Beth? You've got more to offer than this. There's nothing wrong with being a property manager, and I loved it, and I love being out on site, but I had more to offer, and I thought, you deserve to manage a team and take and impart some of your knowledge to the younger generation, or to people who want to come on. So I started looking for another job, but I looked within Firstport, and I'd never wanted to leave Firstport because I love the culture there and I love the people, and I've been there for for pretty much 20 years. So I did go to another company. I went to Rendell and Rittner for a couple of years, but it was a culture thing, and I got the opportunity to go back to Firstport, and so I took it, and so I went back. Yeah, and I'm so glad that they had me back, and I'm so glad that I went back to it, and I got some amazing experience at an R&R. And I worked with some fantastic people, and it was great to see another managing agent and how they work. And the things they do well, and the things that we could do better at Firstport, and the things that they could do better at Rendell and Rittner from first. It's just a whole. It really opened my eyes to everything. But I got some fantastic experience in large and complex developments, and so that's what I came back doing in Firstport initially, as a regional manager, and then my ultimate goal in coming back to Firstport was always going to be managing property managers, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to manage property managers, to be better property managers, to help them and push them and start them on an A+ on the team, help them to reach that themselves, and then hopefully, they'll find the job, maybe not easier, but better. I want them to have a better work-life balance. I want them to know how to achieve that rather than getting the burnout that so many of my colleagues do. That's where I am now.
As I said, I have so many questions. There's so much for you to be proud of in all of that as well. And to make it to associate director after everything that you've clearly been through and still go through, like with your fibromyalgia and caring for your brother and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to see that you don't want people to, like, you don't want your property managers to reach burnout or anything like that. Because do you think that you were diagnosed with fibromyalgia because you were so stressed?
I don't know, to be honest. I look back on it, and it's a question that I do ask. I had a virus. I think I had the
Mm.
Epstein-Barr virus. That's what they and it kicked off from there. I do think that if you have a virus of that nature, which was totally debilitating. In fact, I'd been to Dubai on holiday, and I came back, and I was suddenly struck down with this virus. It was the worst thing I've ever had. It totally took me out. I thought, oh, I've caught something from the plane, or that's what you
Mm.
do, and then it eventually, so I was actually off work for about a month with that. And the company at the time, the small company that I worked with, were really good to me, but there was no online remote working or anything. And to be honest, I was exhausted. It was like I had ME. I was just completely down and out. So officially, it was from the virus. I had that virus, and it wasn't until the next year, when I got another virus, that it kicked it up, and then that's when the
Right.
problem started. And that's what I put it down to. But I also think I think your body does say this is too much. And
Mm.
yes, I've learned from experience of these things that that's why I don't want to see people in burnout mode, because it's not just that they're stressed and it brings on stress and mental health issues. It affects the other part of your body. And this is why I talk a lot about the holistic approach to work and work-life balance, because it's got to be the whole picture. And so for me, and there's all different kinds of stress, because obviously we're stressed at work. Now with DRPLA, this is a very rare illness, and only 1 in 10 million families in the world have it. We knew my mum was very disabled from the age of 42, but there was a massive lot of denial. No one had heard of this DRPLA, and I can't even say the long version of it. And I'm somebody who's pretty well versed in it over the last.
Mm.
Well, my mum was eventually diagnosed in 2009. There was a car accident, and her husband was hospitalised, and therefore she was sadly sectioned because they didn't know what was wrong with her. And he'd been her carer. We couldn't get her to go to the doctors. As I say, there's a massive denial and about what was going on. Cut a long story short, she was tested for Huntington's disease, which is very similar. And
Right.
the consultant said to me, well, she was in a care home by now, 2009. And he said, well, if it's not Huntington's disease, it's got to be this really rare thing. He said, it's never going to be that. And imagine my surprise when it came back that it wasn't Huntington's disease, and we had to be tested for this amazingly rare illness that only 1 in 10 million families have. And it's mainly people in China or in Southeast Asia who have it in their family. And so it's like, oh my goodness, this is a minefield. Well, how do I find out about this illness and what it means for me? And this was, of course, at the same time we were trying for a baby. So again, my life put on hold because it was a 50-50 chance of me having it. So I didn't want to pass that on to my child. We had to go through genetic counselling to see if I wanted to have the test, because there's a whole lot of things. I mean, you immediately think, well, you want to know, don't you? You want to know what you've got. But actually, when you go for genetic counselling for something so as rare as this, your whole life would be turned upside down. So, for example, you'd never get insured. I'd never be able to go on holiday and get insurance. I'd never get house insurance. I couldn't really get house insurance with fibromyalgia. We're on the lowest payout. We just don't bother for me. But with this, my life would be, I would literally be over. And not only that, I'm watching my mum deteriorate because it's a neurological condition that's degenerative, and eventually it takes you're completely disabled by the end, and you stop breathing, and then the inevitable happens. Your body shuts down. And so do you want to know that you've got this and what your future is? Because I'd be looking at my mum and knowing that it would be me. But it's such a rare illness, and it's just such a horrible state of affairs that at that time, when they were diagnosing, the consultant came round to our house with a closed sealed envelope and said, do you still want to know? Because right up until the last, she doesn't want to know. She didn't want to know because she didn't want to have that on her conscience. And so that was heart-wrenching as it was. But thankfully, I tested negative, and so I could carry on with my life and carry on with trying for a baby, which, as you know, didn't happen. And I'm so glad about that. I'm 100% pleased. And that, as I say, but of course, there was my brother. He's been my best friend my whole life. He's 18 months younger than me. We've been together through thick and thin, but he didn't want the test. He didn't want to know. And it's only last year that he was diagnosed because, well, he had to be, because there were symptoms, and it was starting to notice, and his work were reaching out to me. And so he sadly was diagnosed last year, and we went through a whole rigmarole of moving him county over to my county in Northamptonshire from Hertfordshire, where he was. And so that took up a lot of time as well. But he's my hero. He's dealt with it so well, and he's really taken it on the chin and embraced it, and he's my 100% hero. But back at the time when we didn't know about DRPLA, you go on Facebook, you go online, you try and find stuff out. And I thought, well, no one knows anything about this. It's called Hawes Rivers disease somewhere else. And I thought, well, right, that's it. I'm setting up a Facebook group. So I just set up a Facebook group, put the full name in, the DRPLA, the all pseudonyms in, and described it, and just put it out there as an open group. And today I think we have about 500 members, which all over the world. And 2 years ago, it was an honor for me, for our page, Ataxia UK approached me and said, we want to come on your page because we can't find enough people with DRPLA. We need your resources. And so eventually I made them admin, and they run the page now, and it's such an honor that they've taken that up, and these people have all got someone to reach out to now in Ataxia UK, and that they reach out to me also, and they do some wonderful work and wonderful fundraising for all kinds of ataxia, including DRPLA, which is really good for, not my brother, probably it's not going to affect him, and it stops in our family with him, thankfully. But hopefully for anyone else around the world who is sadly diagnosed with this horrible illness.
Everything that you said so far, you're just so incredible that you've got through all of this, and still so passionate about what you do, and passionate about trying to help others and that sort of thing. It's, you should, your daughter must be incredibly proud of you.
I don't think she probably knows. I think
Oh,
she. The thing is, I'm an organizer, Jodie, and I'm spinning the plates like all us property managers. I think you can Google so much these days, and you can
yeah.
find out so much online. And of course, we've got AI now, which is, is
Mm,
even better. And I'm sure we'll all be taken over by robots in the end. But maybe. But even so, we're spinning plates, and I think I just organise her life and organising my life, and I'm probably making it look a lot easier than I should do.
mm,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Maybe when she's your age, she'll look back and think, "Oh God, how did Mum do all of that?" It's
I'm sure
just
she will. And
crazy.
my stepdaughter Elise, she does. She's proud of me, and
Mm,
she's witnessed it. She lived with us for 4 years when she was between year 6 and going up to senior school. She lived with us for 4 years, and she's seen how hard I had to work and what I had
mm,
to juggle. So I know that those girls have got a good role model, and that's
yeah.
really all I want to be. And I want to be a good role model to the team that I work with now. I see
Mm,
them as my children in a way, and sometimes I do act like a mum to them. I think that's all part of it, isn't it? It's about the empathy and the caring. And in our team, the number one priority is being a good human being, being a good human being, being empathetic, having a good work-life balance, and then the
mm,
rest will follow, because that's what really, if we're good human beings and we're empathetic human beings and we're happy at home, we're going to be better in customer service, we're going to be better property managers, we're going to be able to organizing time and stuff. I can help you with that. Technical stuff, yeah, I can help all the guys with that. They can reach out to me anytime, but they need to work on themselves in order to get to that empathetic level and to understand our customers and put themselves in their position. And with that, you need time.
yeah.
You need time to be empathetic, because it's so easy not to be. It's so easy to be in a bad mood and think, oh, I'm not that one again, which we all do, and you can, and you can think it to yourself. But
Mm,
it's about yeah, I think empathy is and being a decent human being is the way forward.
yeah. Oh, I completely agree. And it actually leads me on to one of my questions of how have your how has your personal experience with well, not just your experience with fibromyalgia, but menopausal, as you've mentioned, and your brother's situation as well, about how do you approach them managing disabilities in the workplace?
Well, in terms of, I mean, first port of really good with all of the mental health. We've
Hmm.
got mental health mental health first aiders, of which I
Yeah.
am one, and so that's always covered. We've got lots of EAP pro. We've got the EAP program, so people to
Hmm.
reach out to. Of course, a lot of these things, they do come down to a line manager perspective. So for me, with my line managers, I've always been quite open when I've had challenges. If I'd known that there's been something that I need to let them know. So, for example, when I was going through this with my brother and bringing him over, it's about managing my time, how I'm going to manage my time, and up managing. So
Hmm.
letting my line manager know that, yeah, I've got to do this, this, and this, but I'm allocating time for this, for everything else to do with my role, because I don't want that to slip. And I think really, as line managers, and what I would expect from line managers is that empathetic approach to it,
Hmm.
but there has to be two-way communication, because
Yeah.
all disabilities are so different. My personal issues are going to be very, very different to someone with mental health issues. I mean, menopause, this is something I'm quite passionate about, and have been for a few years. I didn't know I was going through menopause. I'm sure I must have seemed crazy to some people. And now I'm just sort of getting on board with managing it. I've been on HRT, come off our HRT, going back on it, come off it, and then decided that's not right for me. So I found a different approach that worked for me holistically, in terms of night sweats, hot
Hmm.
flushes, mood swings, and things. And I've found different ways of going into it. And for everyone, it's very, very different, but it's about having that two-way conversation. If someone's got mental health issues, it's about having that two-way conversation. And this is where one-to-ones are so important. On my one-to-ones, we go through the work stuff, of course, we have to. But the main priority for me on one-to-ones is asking about them. For me, it's the one opportunity that they have to talk to me off or on the record, whatever they want to do, and about them as a person, about what's affecting them, what issues they're facing. If they've opened up to me about any struggles with disability, mental health, general health, personal life, how are they doing on that? I'm not going to write that down on their one-to-one, not unless they want me to, or it's something significant to their role, but something that they can discuss, so that I know what's going on in the background. Because without that, I'm not going to know how they get why they might be struggling in certain areas at work, why they're struggling to go out on site. Oh, because their child's been ill and had been in hospital and is isolating. Well, I need to know that kind of information. And so the one-to-one for me is mainly about finding out about the person and how they are doing, and that comes into my whole ethos about being decent human beings with empathy. I've got to show it if I want it to be reciprocated, not only to me but to our customers, because that's what's going to make the difference in this industry.
Definitely. And it's a really great way of looking at it. And I'm always saying about, we need to be more empathetic towards various different aspects of property management, as well as our team, and I always say you need to understand why. Problems don't just happen. People don't wake up one day and think, I'm going to be a really bad employee, or I'm going to, I mean, they might, but in general, I don't think they do. Or, I'm going to get up this one, I'm just going to really wind up my boss, or I'm going to get on the laptop and I'm going to say this to my property manager. And, it always starts with something. And it could be that somebody's having a go at you. And I'm not saying it's right, because I really don't think it's right if people are abusive. And it's why I work with the Holly Gazard Trust as well. But, ultimately, if you're angry about something, or if you're having a go at somebody about something, or you're struggling with something, generally there's 10 other things or 100 other things that have happened around you or in your past, or something that makes you act that way. And sometimes people don't realize they're doing it either. Sometimes, people can shy away from doing certain things because actually they're scared of going in a lift, but they don't want to tell somebody that they don't want to tell their boss that, because they need to do a lift inspection, but actually they're actually really, really petrified. But it's coming across as if they're not doing their job properly. The way that you're describing how you have your one-to-ones, like the empathetic side and just understanding them as people, that just shows clearly what a great manager you are.
I'd see what my team say, but hopefully they would think I'm okay. I've only been managing this particular team for a couple of months, so we're all relatively fresh and new. It's hard when you start with a new manager or a new team, because you're coming in, they're used to working with somebody else and how they want to work. And so, there's a little bit of butting heads at the beginning. There's a little bit of, oh, how this is going to be. But I think we're all on the same page now. They've all seen the vision that I have, and how I want to work. And I think that they're all pretty much on board with it. And we've just taken on a new team member, and our team, they seem to be pretty on board with everything that we're aiming to do. So but you're right, you're so right, you don't know what's going on in someone's life, and if you're not open to having those discussions and having an open door to having those discussions, and having an empathetic ear, even if you're thinking in the background, oh my goodness, I could do without this today, then you're not going to get honesty. And honesty, along with empathy, I think is something that we need as individuals, and also for our customers. I'm always saying to my guys, a resident comes on the phone to you, or they're on the email, and they're rude and obnoxious, or they're off with you, and it might be that they've just had a bill through. They've come home from a hard day at work. They're walking and they've seen some rubbish, some litter in the bushes, or some overgrown hedge because the gardener's not done that bit properly. Or they come in and there's some mess that's been left because, I don't know, the cleaners haven't done a good job in their opinion. Or it could be totally over exaggerated. However, that's when they're going to take it out on you. And that's where we, as First Port, we come down to like brilliant basics, because and that's something that embarrassingly, I did some sort of video a few years ago on this brilliant basics around one of my sites. You can search it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. I'll have to do that.
I look a lot younger there, so it's so everyone go there for the photo of this. For the video evidence of this, but yeah, and you know, we go around the developers and make sure that everything kind of looks nice. And really, it's just the simple practice of going on site and saying, okay, well, let's get the garden and the cleaning and the things that they can see, because of course in this industry we work in a business, especially when it comes around to estates, where they're paying for a service they can't see, and sometimes they're paying handsomely for a service they can't really see. So if they can see that the gardens and the cleaning and the things are being done, then they're less likely to it's less likely to escalate to the point of Volcanoville. But of course you do go there as well, you know,
Of course.
and we just, you know, it's, but I think a lot of companies are finding that now. It's not just us, but of course we're dealing with a very emotive subject in their home, and it might be their biggest investment that they've ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. But I like the fact that you said about the bit like going back to basics as well, because the communal area is the first part of their home, isn't it? You know, they might not be responsible for it necessarily, but they walk into that communal area, whether it's grounds or, you know, the communal cleaning, as you say, and if they can feel, you know, like you've taken care of it and it's looking nice. I mean, there's going to be, so certainly this time of year with the winds and everything, there's going to be, you know, you might get the odd leaf come into your communal area, or a tree's going to come down. But in general, across the year, if you can make that home feel so nice, just and welcoming to walk into, yeah, it's definitely something that I aspire to with my company as well, to make sure that everything just, you know, it does look nice as you go in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the female touch. I don't know. No offense to the men, but we do tend to see things that men don't sometimes. Yeah. So tell me about winning the Property Manager of the Year award back in 2019.
I don't think I was the only Property Manager of the Year, but and actually I've been nominated for stuff previously, and I've won stuff with First Port, but that to me was my greatest achievement, because I never found out who nominated me. It was a complete surprise until I saw it on LinkedIn. I had no idea. Property Management 50, and for the role of Property Manager I was nominated by I don't know who. It must have been more than one person, because then it's judged on who should win. And one day I was on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I saw that I'd won, and I was like, what's this? And I looked at it and I thought, is there another Beth Lancaster? You know, I just couldn't understand it. And then I got in touch with them, and they're like, yeah, you won it. And it's like, well, who nominated me? And I've never found out. I have never found out who nominated me. And that's what makes it so special, because it's not one of the things where I've thought, oh, do you know what? I'll go for this, you know, an Armour Award or whatever, that I could have maybe put my name forward for and written my own testimonial for. And, you know, and that's all been done in the past, of course. This was something I had no idea about, and that someone had obviously thought, you know what, she does a good job, and put me forward for it. And I'm so grateful to whoever that was, because every time I look at that piece of glass with my name on it, I think, oh yeah, that was not something that I went out and got. That's something that came to me. And in this day and age, in this industry, you know, normally you have to go out asking for thanks. So you don't get a lot of thanks. So not from residents, and for all I know, it could be residents. I have no idea who nominated me, but yeah, it was super, and it was super to be part of that. And then the next year I got the honour of being able to help judge, which was wonderful. And I love seeing the recent updates of people who've won, and congratulating them, because I just think in this game we all need to really pat each other on the back. There should be no animosity, there should be no jealousy. We need to push ourselves forward as individuals, and especially as women, you know, because I remember the day when this was mainly you know, 20 years ago, this was mainly men who were in
Yeah.
especially in the more senior positions, and
Hmm.
that's so not the case now, and it's fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. How did you, speaking of, start again, going back to Dubai, how did you find being a woman? Certainly back then, I think it's completely changed now with how they approach, British women and stuff like that. And they are encouraging more people to go over to Dubai to work. But back in 1997, 98, that must have been a challenge for you in some ways.
You'll be surprised when I say that I felt over there more respected than I did in the UK.
Wow. Saying
In
that, actually,
fact,
when I went
yeah,
to Dubai a couple of years ago, I've never felt so safe.
right.
I went to I did a skydive when I was over there. And I had friends with me, but I just, I got in a taxi on my own. I went to the skydive place. I did all of that, came back on my own. Um, didn't think anything of it. I felt so safe over there. But I don't know what it was like, obviously, that many years ago. So,
Yeah, no, no, and felt very respected at work. I mean, when I was on the exhibition stands, not so much because there was a bit of
mm,
impropriety, a bit of, would you like to go out for me for drinks and dinner? And with
right,
my dad on the scene, I remember him saying, "Oh, give me his number, I'll tell him where to go." But
right,
because
yeah,
I was only 25 and I was worried about my job and what to do, but. And it is very difficult, but there was never really anything too untoward. It was just, would you like to go out for drinks, and I
mm,
didn't want to go, but it was the guy who was hiring me, so there was
right,
a little bit of that to begin with, but that was only initially. From then, every job I went for, it was very well respected. In fact, they actively, in the jobs that I was going for, they were looking for British women.
okay,
And British women were seen as, in I don't know whether it's particular to that role or many roles, but it was, that's what we want.
okay,
They were allowed to advertise for a woman. They were allowed
hmm
to advertise for a nationality at that
okay,
stage as well. And so that's what they were looking for. And I was always very well respected. I mean, as I said, when I left the Bergerman Centre, they tried everything to get me to stay. And
mm.
that's why I had to sort of make up a fake fiance. So, and even then they said, well, can't you just get married and bring him over here? And
Mm,
it's like so. But yeah, I always found it. And when I came back, even then, people asked me that same question when I came back in 2003, and that same answer. You'd be surprised that I was
mm,
very well respected and never felt another way over there.
mm.
And I worked for the locals for UAE nationals in both of the jobs I had there, and
Okay,
yeah, and it was very, very respectful.
good.
Yeah,
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I really am because I would love to explore opportunities over there. But obviously,
yeah.
with a young daughter as well, it's not really something that I can do right now, but certainly something that my husband and I would love to do. I'll have to come
Mm.
knocking on your door, see if you can give me any tips and
Well,
down the line.
with the right package, you could go out there. If I didn't have the responsibilities I have, then I wouldn't have maybe ruled out going back over there to work. But
Mm.
because sometimes, you just life and then the weather, and you start thinking, oh,
Oh, I
But
know.
with my mom and my brother, and and now my daughters are, settled, then it wouldn't be an
Mm.
option for me now. But yeah, I would encourage, if either of my girls, they wanted to work overseas, I'd say go for it.
Mm.
But I'm always saying to them how much I love London. I think London for me is the greatest city on earth. It's where I was born.
Mm.
And I I think it's fantastic working there. I love working on all the developments that work on in London. It doesn't matter what they look like, what standard of building they are, who
Hmm.
lives in them. I think it's a fantastic city, and I always would impress upon them to go and work in London and live in London, and love that life, because I loved it when I lived there.
Yeah.
But
Do
yeah,
you know
I
what?
know.
I love going to London. Like obviously I come in for the conferences and various other meetings and that sort of thing. And I love it for a few days, maybe even a week, but I'm not sure if I could handle
Mm,
the busyness constantly.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
getting off the train onto the tube and all that kind of stuff. And it's just so hectic. And it's great for, as I say, for a few days and you just feel part of the whole thing. But yeah, then I just want to go home and,
Yeah,
you
see, and
know.
I love it. I mean, I absolutely love living there, but whether I'd live there with children, I don't know. I was there
Mm,
when the 7/7 bombings happened. And
right.
that was really surreal. I was in the county estate office, which was just off Oxford Street, which was round the corner from Edgware Road. And so we
Hmm.
heard all the noise going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty surreal because we all had to walk home in the deathly silence. We had to walk home.
It's awful.
I lived in southeast London, so I walked from central London to the best part of
Mm,
South London, and then managed to get a bus. And I remember the next morning getting up to get the bus to work, and it was dead silent. It was almost like they were in a meditation or silent
yeah.
prayer and just shocked. But yeah, and I think that really showed London as a city. I've never, I was so proud of our city then, and how everyone was it came together.
Yeah,
But it was
that must be
frightening,
so frightening.
frightening time
Yeah.
for my family. Different to when I was in Dubai, and it was the 9/11. Then I was getting a lot of phone calls from my family saying, "Are you going to be okay because you're in the Middle East?" But I was like, "I'm more concerned about you in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be fine because there's no way that they're going to bomb Dubai. Not with all not with all the money they've put into it. So you
Mm,
worry about yourself, and I'll be fine."
yeah.
So we knew we were really safe in Dubai.
Your whole life trajectory, it seems like you've just had so many experiences, and it was a bit like at the beginning you were just trying to, everything links together so
Yeah.
well. You haven't just got like this simple story of like, oh, I just fell into property management and I've been here for 20 years kind of thing. It's a really interesting story.
Thank
But
you.
do you think all these experiences have, how have they shaped you, your perspective on your career, like going from working in the Middle East, as you say, to into London, and now, doing what you're doing now, and having all of those experiences around you, has that shaped you?
100%. I think,
Yeah.
our whole lives do shape us, and everything we choose to do, and every decision we make, and even the decisions we make that are the wrong ones, or
Mm,
that we think are the wrong ones at the time, are still the right ones because they're still going to shape you. And, things like fibromyalgia to me was probably the greatest setback for me in all of this, because even with DRPLA and all the business with my mum and my brother, of course, this has been the most personal to me and my body and my health, and also at the time where I thought my life was going, and my
hmm.
life then getting put on hold, and not having that plan in my head. Oh, right, I'm doing this. I'm going to be doing this, and this. And I didn't. And that's why I suppose at one point I decided to do the triathlon. I was on some really good drugs, and I'd been put on these drugs, which, I mean, that's another story. Getting off those drugs, that was probably the most horrific time of my life. But I was on these really great painkillers, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself. While we were going through the adoption process, I thought I'm never going to have the opportunity to do this again, because I won't have time. Our social worker kept saying to me, "Oh, you do know you're doing this triathlon stuff, and you really seem into it. So, this is going to take up a lot of your time with you." I'm like, "I'm only doing it because I don't have children. I want to. I've got to fill my time."
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't doing massive Ironmans or anything. I was doing, the smaller triathlons, but I was loving it. It gave me, it was mentally good for me because it was focusing my mind on something. When
Hmm.
I felt work I could do, I needed to keep the cogs turning and keep my mental focus outside of what was going on with the whole adoption process, and
Hmm.
any work I was doing. And I was still in pain, but I was managing it, and I just wanted to reach some goals of things that I might have wanted to do before I had fibromyalgia, and to get that out of the way so I then could sink back into motherhood and putting my energies into that. And so I did that. I was actually featured in a triathlon magazine
Oh, wow.
because I had fibromyalgia, and I'd conquered it, it seemed. And I was doing this great thing, and so I was in this triathlon magazine, and that was a great win. And and I really loved doing that. And that, I've obviously still got the magazine, and
Hmm.
it's still something I've done, and it's in the past, but that's 10 years ago now. And I still keep fit, and I still go to the gym, but I came off those drugs. Worst thing I ever did. Doctors talk you into all this stuff, and that completely messed me up. And it was coming off those. I was basically addicted to painkillers.
Wow.
And I had to still work while I was doing that. And I'm sure no one noticed because I'm very good at covering all this stuff up and just working around my time and time management. And that's where it's become good for me, because I've had to be good with time management. And so that has come, I mean, it probably is something within me that I'm good with time management and spinning plates in the air and, lateral thinking and thinking about everything at once, all at one time. And you can tell from the way I'm talking, everything's coming to me and I'm quick, and that's the way I am. But because I've had to manage my time, because I've been really ill in the background, and I've wanted to make sure no one noticed, and no one noticed that I was sick from coming off these painkillers, and no one noticed that I was having flare-ups of my fibromyalgia, and no one noticed that there might be some neurodiverse issues that I've had to deal with my daughter. No one noticed there might be some issues that I've had with my stepdaughter living here, and that's all about time management. And so, of course, all those influences have influenced my working life, but also my work has influenced my personal life also, and the challenges that I have at work. This is where it all comes back to empathy and being a decent human being. And I truly believe that if whether you believe in a higher power or not, and I do, I'm a Christian, whether you believe in manifestation or meditation, or you have different, you've got to find a way to bring out the empathy in you so that you are a good at customer service as best you can. But I also think that we need to have that knowledge behind us, and have a good line manager behind us, and a great company behind us. And that's the good thing about Firstport, the autonomy of decision making and the support in when you make decisions, back you up to be able to say no, and to be able to say, well, hang on a minute, I'm not going to be spoken to like that. I'm going to end the call, or let's keep this professional. And being empowered to say that, because I have worked for companies in the past where I haven't been able to have the power of autonomy. And that to me is really, really important. No one wants to be micromanaged. If my team, if I only micromanage them if they need to be, I don't really care. If you get all your work done, if you're getting everything done, and I'm not getting complaints, and we're reaching our goals and we're reaching our stats and our SLAs, I'm not going to be down on you, calling you at 9 a.m. and saying, where are you? But I am if you're not reaching them, because I'm going to start asking questions. And I think that that's the great thing about working in this day and age. Working for Firstport, yes, I can't speak for all companies and how they work, but I find that works a lot better, and especially now we can work remotely. And of course, with the pandemic, we were lucky with Firstport because we were already working remotely. So we already had it all set up. It was great. And now I'm just so glad that we can all work like that, because this is again about the work-life balance. How am I going to go and pick up my daughter at 3:20 of an afternoon if I'm not working from home and I don't have flexibility? And we have to, I mean, I'm sure in your business as well, you have to, we want to take on good people. We want to be able to offer them the best from us, and it's a two-way street.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Just to finish off then, what are your future goals and aspirations, either for yourself or that you foresee in the industry?
Well, I think the Building Safety Act, I think, has been the biggest challenge for all property managers. And I think that has increased our workload. And I'd really like to see the government do something to help all managing agents to navigate the minefield of this, because it's putting a lot of pressure on managing agents and their property managers and their staff. And of course, being a managing agent, everyone thinks that they're mass is Firstport, they're getting tons and tons of money, but it's always been quite a small profit margin that you have to try and find other ways to make money, as I'm sure you know, Jodie. So it's like, well, we need help. And we need help from the government. We need, I know the TPI do a lot of work in this area, and, you
They
know,
do.
kudos to them. I mean, you know, I find their updates fascinating. I think they do fantastic work, and, you know, I try and join as many webinars that they put across. I like to keep up with my CPD, with your podcast now as well, which I listen to. I listen to when I'm driving to site. You know, it's to keep up with it and to see all different people, the wonderful people you interview in the industry, and all have their different say. But yeah, I'd really like to see some help with the Building Safety Act, and to helping us as individual property managers to understand it more easily, because it's a minefield. In terms of me personally, I just want to keep on doing what I'm doing. I want to just enjoy every day. I never want to get up on a Monday morning and dread going into work, and I definitely don't want my team to. And my goal is that on a Sunday night, that not one of them is worrying about coming into work on a Monday, and if they are, I want them to reach out. And I want them to say, I'm in the pit of my stomach, I'm dreading coming in, you know. And I never want that for any of them, because I don't have it. And I want them to, that's my goal, is for them all to reach that point where they're not, okay, maybe they're not jumping out of bed and thinking, woo, yay, let's go to work. Okay. But at least they're getting up and thinking, yeah, I'm going to make a bit of a difference today. And we may not think that we're making a difference in property management, because it's not, we're not doctors or lawyers, but we are making a difference. We're making a difference to at least one person's life. And that may be something as simple as smiling at somebody we meet on site. It might be as simple as saying hello to somebody who's helping us out in a support team and asking how their weekend was. There's a way to make a difference, you know, to get some new plants planted and see the smile on someone's face, or you might get a thank you. And we do make a difference, and we can make a difference. And that's really my goal, is just day-to-day goals, because you never know what's going to happen.
Well,
so
absolutely.
I can't make a 10-year plan, because who knows what next might come along. I'm hoping I'm all out of surprises, but you never know. And, you know, it's but that's the wonderful thing about life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Beth. I really, really appreciate everything you said and how open you've been. You've been wonderful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Jodie, and good luck with the podcast. I look forward to listening to this episode and all the rest.
All the others. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my latest podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. The links are in the show notes. Or you can contact me on jodie@jodiefraser.com. For more content and updates, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite platforms. Thank you once again for listening. Until next time, take care.